So sometimes one of the hardest things we have to do as a group leader is just to get people to either start talking or get people to stop talking in our group. We've probably all been in the group where a question is asked and it's just complete silence. And everyone avoids eye contact, and then it can quickly turn into the leader answering every one of their own questions, which is awkward for everyone. Or maybe it's the opposite problem, where there's someone in your group that you just can't get to stop talking, and every time a question gets asked, they speak up first and they ramble for the next 10 minutes until you're so off topic you don't know how to get back. Maybe you're just so lucky you've got a group that's a combination of both. But the good news is that we're not the first groups to have to deal with this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, Paul was writing to the church that would have actually looked a lot like our groups. They met in relatively small numbers and they met in people's homes. And there were a lot of issues with the church in Corinth. But in the 12th chapter, Paul starts dealing with their dysfunction as it relates to when they actually gathered together to meet. In fact, their meetings were often just total chaos. And so Paul describes the church like a body with lots of different body parts like we have that all have different functions, but each part needs the other. And so in verse 7 of chapter 12, he just says it this way. He says, a spiritual gift is given to each of us so we can help each other. And so in other words, God wired each of us differently. So when we get together, we can't expect each other to all function the same way. But when we do come together, our goal is to help each other, to build each other up. So here's the bottom line as you lead your group. The goal of a group is for everyone to participate, but participation looks different for everyone. So don't expect the introverts to be the first to answer your questions or share for extended periods of time, and don't expect all the social butterflies to want to sit back and listen all night long either. Your goal is to get everyone to participate, but recognize that participation will just look different for everyone. So this certainly isn't an exhaustive list, but here are just 6 strategies to help get your group talking and 6 strategies to get your group to stop talking. So let's start with getting them talking first. Number 1, simply model the behavior you want to see. So try answering questions in a concise way from time to time so that the more reserved members of your group don't feel as though they have to talk for a long time in order to speak up. So sometimes a simple phrase or one sentence answer is sufficient. Maybe one of the ways that this plays out most often is in prayer. So if you struggle to get people to pray in your group, pay attention to how you're praying. So if your prayers are always lengthy and you use big words, the quiet people in your group might never have the courage to try praying. So try modeling really simple and concise prayers or answers to questions so that everyone feels like they can participate. Number 2, wait. So leave time in your group for the processors. Research actually shows that some people may need at least 3 seconds of think time to respond. And I've even heard that some of the more extreme introverts may need up to 9 seconds. So learn to be okay with silence, because that silence might be what some people need in order to start talking. All right, so number 3, use intros. So if your group is just starting, ask everyone to give a brief intro of themselves, which even the quiet people should be willing to do. So then divide up the remaining weeks of your group and ask 1 or 2 people to give a longer version of their story each week. So some of the talkers in your group would be willing to jump in the very first week, without time to prep, and that's not going to be a problem for them. But the quieter people, when they know what's coming in advance, they're going to have time to think about what to share, and they could give, that could give them permission to speak up and be vulnerable. So even the quieter people are usually willing to talk about themselves if they've got time to think about what they're going to share in advance. Number 4, use scripture and reading and asking questions to your advantage. So ask the quieter people in your group to read the scriptures for the night if you have any, or maybe give them the printed questions for the group so that they can read and ask the questions. And so even though this doesn't guarantee they'll start actually sharing personally, remember, participation looks different for everyone, and getting someone just to read out loud might be the best way for them to engage with the group. Number 5, ask questions before the group. What I mean is try sending out a question or 2 in an email or a text before the group, and that can give people time to prepare an answer beforehand and hopefully encourage some of the quieter people to be ready to share when they actually get there. And lastly, number 6, just ask specific people. So if someone in your group never ever responds and other people always tend to chime in first, try asking the person directly, such as like, hey, what do you think about that, Tom? So be careful not to do this one too often or in ways that would make the person withdraw even more, but sometimes it's the permission that they need to be able to open up. All right, so let's shift gears into getting people to stop talking. So number one, pay attention to body language. So when you ask a question, don't make eye contact with the person who talks too much, even though they're probably the ones trying to make eye contact with you. And what this does is this can subtly communicate that the other people in the group need a chance to speak. Number two, this is the tough one, but honestly, sometimes you just need to pull the person aside and talk to them before or after the group. So if someone is consistently dominating the conversation or is overly needy or prevents the rest of the group from being able to participate in ways that are just helpful for everyone, you just simply need to bring this to their attention. And so look, having a crucial conversation like this is a whole other topic for a whole other time, but at the very least, just start by affirming how valuable their contributions are, but ask them to try to leave some more space so other people can participate. Number three, so set some ground rules up front in your group. It's actually great to set expectations for what the time in the group, what time you will end before you even begin, and what the goal is that everyone can participate. So in other words, if people know that you only have 90 minutes together and 10 people all need to be able to participate, the more talkative people will actually sometimes recognize that they need to hold back a little bit. Number four, use timers. So set timers on your phone when you need to start the more formal activity or discussion, or maybe when you need to stop for prayer requests. So what this does is this prevents taking up more than maybe half of your group time with the small talk, and then you're running late because you're still trying to cram everything into the night, or maybe you're never officially winding down the conversation at the end so people can get on with the rest of their plans. So remember that even though some people in your group might be fine running late, other people might have other commitments or babysitters on the clock at home or other reasons that you need to respect their time. And so setting timers can help the group just hold each other accountable without one person having to be the bad guy and cutting people off. Number five, use hand signals. So this one only really works if you know someone in the group well and they have a good sense of humor, but you can agree on a signal to let them know when they need to stop talking. So my wife and I have kind of adopted a signal for wrap it up, and it looks like this. So if we're out at like a party or a family function or something and we lock eyes with each other and realize like we're about to get out of here, we need to hit the road, we give each other one of these. And then we both know it means it's time to wrap it up. So again, if you know someone in your group well enough and they're trying maybe to get better at not dominating conversation, just use hand signals, establish something together as a fun way to help them stay accountable to leaving space for other people to talk. And lastly, number six, just use redirection. So if someone is talking for way too long, find a spot to jump in and acknowledge their point, but then just redirect the conversation back on track. So it might sound something like, hey, Jason, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you made a really great point there, and I'd love to hear what some other people have to say about that. Bob, what do you think? So look, there's 6 tips on getting people to start talking and 6 tips on getting people to stop talking. Certainly not an exhaustive list, but hopefully they will help you as you try to create a group that everyone can participate in, even though participation doesn't always look the same.